So the first Financial Action Task Force Plenary under the two-year Singapore Presidency is currently underway in Paris. Delegates representing 206 members of the global network and observer organizations, including the International Monetary Fund and the United Nations and the World Bank and Interpol and Egmont group of financial intelligence units, are participating in the Working Group and Plenary meetings in Paris. South Africa is well represented at the plenary meetings. Officials from several government departments and agencies are attending the FATF Plenary meetings. The task force will decide on whether South Africa is greylisted or not at its next plenary meeting in February 2023. For more on this, let's now bring in the National Treasury's Acting Director General, Ismail Momoniat. A very good day to you, sir, and thanks for making the time to speak to us.
Hi, very good day, Desiree. And thank you for interviewing me. I think that the whole issue of South Africa preventing the FATF grey list, I think, is quite critical. And as you said, we are attending the FATF plenary meeting, October. In fact, the next one will be in February. And whilst they're not discussing the grey listing today or at this meeting, it's going to be on the agenda at the next plenary, as I said, in February next year.
Analysis has said that South Africa's efforts to comply with FATF's stand and could earn the country an extension to the grey listing. Take us into this hard work that's been spoken about that National Treasury, along with other government departments, is undertaking to avert this possible eventuality.
Yes, thanks. So I'll do so. Apologies, it's a bit noisy and sometimes it's a bit difficult to hear, but I have heard the question. I think, the point is FATF has a way in which it deals with what it calls its mutual evaluation and how it follows up. Now, we had our mutual evaluation in 2021, and we are put into a particular process which ends now in October. And next month, we have to submit a report on the progress made. And yes, we've been working very hard, not just as National Treasury, but a whole interdepartmental process involving many departments, as well as many entities like the National Prosecuting Agency, the Hawks, the FIC, SARS, etc. And the idea is, on one hand, the way the grey listing process works is there are two elements to it. The first element was just gaps or weaknesses in our laws, and second, on implementation of those laws. On the laws themselves, we've got two bills in Parliament currently, and those bills, I'm pretty confident, they now at the process is in place. Parliament is having hearings in the National Assembly, in the portfolio committees, and I'm quite confident that Parliament will pass those laws before the end of the year, and we'd be able to report next year, February, that we comply now substantially with all the legal framework issues that they identify. The next step, or the parallel step of how we implementing our laws and whether we have a risk-based assessment, there are 11 measures there, and that's going to be a bit tougher, but even there, I think we've been making significant progress. And that's why I think on both counts, that when we have meetings with what's called the joint group in December and in January next year, I'm confident that we can show really substantial progress. And hopefully, and whilst it's going to be difficult, that we'd be able to prevent the grey list. It's really, I know many analysts have come and said, it's almost certain we're going to go into the grey list. We don't have a defeatist attitude. We're doing everything it takes. We're trying very hard to prevent that grey listing, tough as it is.
I hear you, Director General, but it said that South Africa failed 20 of the 40 FATF standards and recommendations and all 11 outcomes of the effective implementation laws. Are you able to take us into some of these areas of failure in the country, just to help our viewers understand what brought us to this place?
Okay, as I said, it's quite difficult hearing the question in this noisy environment, but I think I've got the gist of it. Yes, on the legal side, there were 20 out of 40 recommendations where it was identified by FATF that there are weaknesses that we have to adjust. Dealing with that, to be honest, is the easy part because it involves changing the law. And what we've done is in the two bills, we'll cover 16 of the 20 measures. And there'll be about 4 which will then require regulations. The important thing is that the law needs to be enforced by the time we go to FATF, or when we engage with the FATF
February.
Secretary, then join group next year, in January.
Director General,
so, you know, that I think is a relatively easy part. And
yeah.
I'm pretty confident we'll have most of those in place and we'll have addressed those legislative weaknesses. The challenge is going to be on the 11, what they call immediate outcomes or the effectiveness measures. How effective are we in enforcing our laws? And there, some of the issues can be done instantaneously, but I think we'll be able to show that we've made a lot of progress. You know, the mutual evaluation took place just after the end of state capture, when in 2019, when we were probably at our weakest, or some of our institutions had certainly been crippled by what happened under state capture. They were deliberately weakened, whether it's the NPA, whether it's the Hawks, whether it's institutions like SARS. And since then, you know, there's been new appointments made by the president, for example, the head of NPA, the appointments to the Hawks, the appointments to the SARS, and the new leadership there has definitely begun to make a difference. And
Director General, I have
to
let you go due to time constraints, but just a quick one. How have you been received in Paris?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
How have you, what's the mood like in Paris in terms of receiving the South African delegation? Are you able to engage effectively?
Look, as I said, this is not the time when they're assessing us, but certainly our delegation is just absorbing the best lessons to learn and to be empowered when we actually present our report or we draft our report next month and we have to submit it and for the December and January engagements that we're going to have. So on the one hand, it's what we are getting out of it, and on the other hand, of course, we are talking to people about South Africa, promoting South Africa, letting them just informally know about developments and so on.
Ismail Momoniat is the Acting Director General within Treasury here in South Africa.